Hello, everyone. We are seeing our first race results of the night. Georgia and South Carolina. They're right now too early to call. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NBC News Election Headquarters. Live coverage of Election Night 2020. It is finally here.
Yeah, and polls are already closing around the country. Here's what we're going to be watching tonight. First, it's the fight between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, of course, for those crucial battleground states that will decide this election, including Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
We're tracking each candidate's road to 270 electoral votes. That's the number, of course, needed to win the presidency.
There's another big story tonight. Who will control the United States Senate? A handful of races will determine that question, and we're watching them all.
So polls have just closed in 6 states with 60 electoral votes. Let's get right to it. We've got some numbers coming in. Let's look at the Virginia presidential race. And right now, that's too early, but we can report that Biden is leading in Virginia.
Let's look at Georgia. It's a swing state this year. We don't usually say that. It's too early to call, but we're starting to get a few votes in. Let's go to South Carolina. Too early to call there as well.
In Vermont, we can project that Joe Biden is the winner in Vermont.
Coming up 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock in the West, and there are a bunch of polls about to close. 16 states plus Washington, D.C., including a couple of key battlegrounds just a few seconds away. We do have some results in Kentucky. The president is the projected winner. Not a surprise there. Let's go to some other states.
Yeah, Georgia, it's too early to call. North Carolina, too early to call. Ohio, also too early to call.
And let's look at South Carolina, also too early to call. Big Senate race there going on as well.
All right, and Biden leading in Virginia right now. That's too early to call. All right, we've got the 8 o'clock poll closings now. We can look. There is Florida, too close to call. Note 82% expected vote in there. In Pennsylvania, too early to call. No surprise, that one's going to take a while.
Yeah, way too early. New Hampshire, also too early to call. Just a few votes in. In New Jersey, Joe Biden is the projected winner at this hour. And in Maryland, we've got Joe Biden as the projected winner.
NBC projecting Biden the winner in Massachusetts as well. Also in Delaware, Biden wins. Biden also the projected winner in D.C.
All right. And Oklahoma will go for the president. In Illinois, we are calling it too early, but Biden is leading in Illinois. He's led in the polls. Connecticut, same thing. Too early, but Biden is leading.
Here's what's happening in Alabama right now. Too early to call. Too early in Maine as well. Same story in Mississippi, Missouri. Biden leading in Rhode Island, but that one's too early to call. Trump leading in Tennessee. All
right, so where does that put us? We've just made some calls. Here we go. Let's get to the map of 270. That's how you get elected president in this country, as we show Tennessee, but I think we can roll the map. And now we've got a few more numbers to report. Joe Biden, not surprisingly, carrying those big cities in the East, and we see Donald Trump in some of his strong red territory. Chuck, this is unfolding as expected.
Nobody's won a road game yet.
Yeah.
You know, Pat Riley used to say back in those 7-game series, you know, a series doesn't begin until somebody wins a road game. Well, a series doesn't be an election night doesn't begin until we flip a red state blue or a blue state red.
Back to NBC News 2020 election coverage. We have got another call that's in the state of Connecticut, and when NBC News projects Joe Biden as the winner in Connecticut, not a big surprise there.
The votes are rolling in. We're looking at Ohio now. It was a battleground for years and years, but it wasn't in 2016. Trump took it by 8, I believe.
Trump took it by 8 points.
Polls that are interesting in terms of
we
demographics.
I mean, look, I know people are watching the raw returns come in, and I had the governor, Mike DeWine, said, hey, the Democratic numbers will be high early. Republican numbers come in, but he thought it was going to be close. The exit polls indicate that. And look at the suburban and urban and rural splits here. You know, Trump's vote in 2016, he did, you know, it was sort of 38% of it was from the urban area. Well, we've seen while he's increased his margin, he's increased his vote share in rural counties in Ohio. He's decreased his share in suburban and in urban. So the question is, again, everything is a margin game here. Now, if you're Joe Biden, you'd rather trade suburban votes for rural votes, suburban counties for rural counties. There's just more raw vote there. Question is if it's enough. We've seen some suburban white vote has dipped 7 points from 4 years ago, and Hillary Clinton lost it by 8. Ohio's going to be close.
Welcome back. We've got a couple of new calls to make in the presidential race in Colorado. Biden is the projected winner. South Dakota, Trump, the projected winner.
Okay, so if you're keeping track at home, that's one apiece. Let's ring Garrett Haken. He's in Houston, Texas. Texas saw just an enormous outpouring of early vote. Garrett, what are we seeing now as the results are starting to come in?
Savannah, as those early votes are getting counted in the big cities, you're seeing Joe Biden build a bit of a firewall here in Harris County, in Dallas County, in Tarrant County. That's the Fort Worth area. That particular county is essentially tied, but big leads for Biden in Dallas County and Harris County, but perhaps not big enough. He's outperforming Hillary Clinton's margins in the state from 2016 significantly, but he's about on par with where Beto O'Rourke was in 2018 in a race that O'Rourke ended up losing by about 2.5 points. The other sign of concern for Democrats in the state, the Rio Grande Valley, traditionally Hispanic counties, places like McAllen, Texas, appear to be underperforming for Biden as to where Clinton was 4 years ago. The trick for Democrats here was always going to be run up the score in a major way in Harris County. Now with just the early votes in, Biden does have a firewall, but as these same-day votes start to come in, you just wonder if it's going to be enough for him to hold on in a state that was always a bit of a reach state for Democrats, but one where they felt a lot of demographic trends and people moving into the state might give them a shot at flipping this state for the first time in some 40 years. Savannah?
All right, Garrett, thank you.
Some new calls. Let's look at North Dakota. And President Trump is the projected winner in North Dakota.
In Alabama, President Trump is the winner there. There's also a Senate race going on there. We'll check in with that in a few moments.
And looking at Florida once again, checking in there. It is too close to call, but Trump leads in Florida. And in Texas right now, too early to call.
Welcome back. 10:30 in East, 7:30 out west. Louisiana's votes are in. NBC News is projecting Trump as the winner there. In Kansas, the president holds on and holds the state of Kansas. There's also a Senate race going on there.
In New Hampshire, it looks like Joe Biden will win. We project him as the winner. Florida, in that race, too close. Trump leads, but that race still too close. Watching it very carefully.
Same story in Texas. It's too early to call, but the president does have a lead there, and North Carolina is getting just a little bit more interesting. It is too close to call there, and we've been watching that one real closely tonight.
Ohio would be bonus category, and right now it's too early to call. Too early in the Georgia presidential contest as well.
All right, let's keep it going. Here we go in Virginia. Too early to call, but Vice President Biden does have a lead there in Wisconsin. We could call it way too early to call. They still are counting votes there.
Pennsylvania, they'll be counting them for a while. Too early in Pennsylvania. Minnesota, which we were discussing a few moments ago, that's too early as well.
All right, let's go to Maine, which divides its electoral votes by congressional district. We're calling that too early to call, but we did see a split decision in 2016 with Donald Trump picking up one electoral vote there. We'll see what happens. And Arizona, too early to call. The vote is coming in fast and furious. Vice President Biden with the lead there in Arizona at this hour.
Let's take a look at Iowa right now. Too early to call. Nevada is too early as well.
All right, Montana, too early to call. We'll keep an eye on that race and hope to give you some Senate races in a moment here as well. And in Utah, as expected, President Trump wins. So that brings us to 270.
So let's add them all up. And here's where they stand right now. Biden leading 98-92 on that road to 270. Okay, Donald Trump, the projected winner in Missouri. That's brand new. Chuck?
Well, let's look. Missouri at one time used to be a swing state. It wasn't that long ago, but it's just not enough. This has become a very much more the rural numbers just start to produce. But I want to go back to Ohio and just button up Ohio here a little bit. It does look like Donald Trump is on his way to winning. And remember, I told you it's all about the lake here. I know that's black on the board, but I swear to God, the water is blue on there. And I told you about these Democratic counties from 2018. 2018, a pretty good Democratic year overall. So let's look at the Trump Dem counties. And as you can see, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 counties that Sherrod Brown, the Democratic senator who won re-election in Ohio in 2018, carried. And as you can see here, this was going to start with Biden needed to carry these. And they're just not happening. Erie County, I told you Erie to Erie. This was an important one. Sherrod Brown carried it. Joe Biden trying to be the same type of Democrat didn't happen. You look over here in Ottawa. It's close. and it still be. There's more time. There's a lot more vote out there that could end up making that. But you see, this generally is the problem. Look at Ashtabula County. This was one Trump won big, and he's winning it bigger this time. So there is some evidence, and it's something Jason Miller brought up, that in some of these Midwestern rural counties, they are bringing out some more vote. So we shall see.
Chuck,
one other thing.
Just quickly, I want to go back to the board here because I think we've got a call.
Another call
in Illinois here.
Okay.
Joe Biden is the projected winner in Illinois. That's 20 electoral votes in his column. Chuck.
Hi, everybody. Our election night coverage rolls on. It is 11 o'clock in the east, 8 o'clock in the west, and we have a bunch of results to report to you, including some poll closings. California just closed. Joe Biden, the projected winner there. Out west, Oregon, Joe Biden expected to win handily there. Oregon, 7 electoral
And
votes.
Biden will sweep the Pacific Coast as we're projecting that he will win in Washington, the state of Washington as well. Idaho, too early. Trump leads there, however.
We started the night talking about Florida. We'll start talking about Florida. It is too close to call at this hour, but the president is leading there. Republicans feeling good about that. In Texas, a similar story. It is too early to call, but the president has taken a lead in Texas.
We've been carefully watching North Carolina. That is still too close to call, but you see the numbers on the screen there. Also in Ohio, too early to call.
Let's go to Georgia. Democrats had high hopes here. It's too early to call. We'll see how that one shakes out. We've seen a couple of the Senate races advance to a runoff in January. In Virginia, it's too early to call, but Vice President Biden is leading in that race.
Let's take a look at a pair of the states in that blue wall the Democrats are hoping for. Wisconsin, too early. Pennsylvania, too early as well.
And in Minnesota, where there's been a lot of talk tonight about whether or not this one will flip, right now, too early to call, but you see with the votes in the Vice President Biden with a lead there, and in Maine, where they have a ranked choice voting, so it could be a while. It's too early to call.
Not a whole lot of vote left in Arizona. We're watching that. It is still too early to call. However, Biden is leading in Arizona. Iowa, too early right now.
And let's go out west to Nevada. Too early to call. We'll keep an eye on that one. This was the one I just assigned to Chuck Todd. Nebraska, projected winner of 3 of 5 electoral votes. Do I have that right? So that's what it
right
says.
now, right.
Yes.
Well,
You're awaiting the congressional district.
Well, there's two, right. So that sounds like we're not ready to call the first either, which would be Lincoln, but that's going to probably be Republican. But Omaha is the second congressional district. Polls have indicated that Joe Biden had a pretty a lead there that looked like his leads in Wisconsin or Michigan in that 5 to 8 point range. But you had the actual congressional race itself. The former Democratic congressman endorsed the incumbent Republican congressman over the Democratic nominee. So there's a lot of potential split ticketing. I don't think anything is a slam dunk there for the Democrats nabbing 1 electoral vote. And hey, we know every electoral vote counts. And if you've ever seen those 269 scenarios, this is why Nebraska 2 and Maine 2, and by the way, we have a long way to go in Maine getting their vote. Some of this vote is same-day vote. We don't have some of the mail-in vote.
Got a couple presidential calls to make right now. First, in Mississippi, NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win in the state of Mississippi.
In Wyoming, President Trump takes it, which brings us to the map of 270, the road to 270. It's starting to fill out. We're just a few minutes away for some poll closings in the West.
And another call here. You see it on the screen there. Virginia, NBC News projects that Joe Biden will win Virginia's 13 electoral votes.
In Idaho, the president has won Idaho's 4 electoral votes. In Georgia, it's a squeaker. It is too early to call. We await, last check, a lot of votes still coming in the Atlanta suburbs, which could be telling. Let's go to North Carolina. Too close to call. That is also a squeaker, to use the technical term.
Pennsylvania goes without saying at this point. Too early to call there.
Maine is too early to call as well. We'll keep an eye on that one. In Arizona, it is too early to call. However, we are projecting that Joe Biden has a lead there.
Minnesota, it is too early to call. Michigan, too early to call as well.
And let's go to Texas. Too early to call, but the president has jumped out to a lead there in Texas, so we continue to watch that one. In Wisconsin, too early to call. We were just discussing that one with Chuck.
Iowa's too early to call, as is Montana. Nevada, we're just starting to see our first votes coming in from Nevada. That's too early to call. Hawaii.
Yeah, Nevada was one mentioned by Corey Lewandowski of the Trump campaign as a potential pickup for President Trump. We'll see if that plays out. The polls haven't suggested that. And in Hawaii, too early to call. We just got a poll closed there.
So let's look at where that stands in the race to 270. Joe Biden leading right now, 205 to 136. We come up on the midnight hour, a big call now for President Trump in the state of Ohio. NBC News projects that Trump will win Ohio and take its 18 electoral votes. It's a state that Joe Biden thought he might have a chance in. It paid a visit there quite recently.
He did pay a visit there quite recently. It was less of a battleground than it's been in years past. Chuck, Ohio going to President Trump, that was on his must-do list.
It's definitely on his must-do, and as you can see, he's starting to pad a little bit of a lead here. It's up to 8 points, which is getting close to what he won it by with Hillary Clinton. I can show you here from 4 years ago. He's already surpassed his number. Biden is doing a little bit better in Clinton because he's getting some of that third-party number here. But you can see is the predictions about Ohio, say, 6 weeks ago, a lot more accurate than they were perhaps 6 days ago. Let's go through the northern tier here a little bit. Minnesota. Joe Biden's building quite a bit of lead here, 63% in. We still see it as a lot of today vote there, but we still have no St. Paul. I'm not. We'll see, but I know the Trump campaign thinks there's something there. We're not quite seeing it there in Minnesota. Check out Wisconsin here a bit. It's a narrow lead for the president, but just a reminder here how much of this is today's vote. And just so you see, so right now he leads by 109,000 votes. I just want to take you to Milwaukee County. We expect a lot more than that. Right now, there's only 36% in. Just to give you a sense of how much vote is in Milwaukee. It was a bad turnout, but let's go to 2012. You're looking at some 400,000 to 500,000 voters there. And so we still have a long way to go. Barack Obama won it by nearly 200,000 votes. So my point is, as you could see, one Milwaukee would suddenly give Biden the lead in Wisconsin. We're dealing with a lot of today vote, a lot of rural vote there. Let me take you quickly to Michigan. We're also seeing half the vote in. Appears to be mostly today vote. As you can see here, the yellow is today, the orange is the mail vote. So we still got a lot to wait for there that may, we think, end up leading Biden.
We've got a big call to make. It's official now. NBC projects Florida goes to President Donald Trump. We've been watching this all night. We've been very careful. But this is going to go into the Trump column, an absolute must-win for him.
Look at the difference, 380,000 votes. Let me go back here and take you back very quickly to Miami-Dade, just to remind you where there was 300,000 votes 2 cycles ago. So as we see, the difference was that. Let's go. So Joe Biden won it by 83,000. Hillary Clinton won it by nearly 300,000. So you want to know where 200 of the 300,000 votes is? It's sitting in Miami-Dade County. So there's no doubt Miami-Dade County, even as, you know, he can feel good. He added, Osceola County, I think that's an addition in here, if I will. No, not quite a flip county, never mind that. But this Miami-Dade story is, you know, it may be a unicorn, it may be all those things, but as we've seen it with some Hispanic men as well in other states.
It's really
this Latino thing is an issue here for the Democrats. Look, it's interesting, and you wonder if Joe Biden doesn't improve with older white voters, that's kept him in this race, we'd be talking about, boy, Democrats really have to get their base out.
Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it's going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround. We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. Yes. I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see. Look, you know, we could know the results as early as tomorrow morning, but it may take a little longer. As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware. Pardon? Hey, John, the Gov, yeah, the whole team, man. You've done a great job. I'm grateful to the poll workers, to our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone who participated in this democratic process. And I'm grateful to all of my supporters here in Delaware and all across the nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this." Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Got a call in Iowa.
Yes.
NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win the 6 electoral votes in Iowa.
Okay, so Andrea, that's what I find to be so perplexing about this tweet, because here the Trump campaign's having a much better night than it expected to have, and now the president is signaling through this tweet by saying they're trying to steal it, et cetera, that he doesn't feel that they're going to win. I don't understand how that adds
This is
up.
what he has been saying every single day, that it's not right that the Supreme Court let Pennsylvania start counting tomorrow, really, tonight and tomorrow, that 3 days. But there are Mike Memoli, who has covered the Biden campaign forever, has spoken on the record and gotten from Senator Bob Casey exactly what I have been hearing from others not on the record, so we couldn't report it. That Joe Biden has been calling around. He's very nervous about how slow the count is in several of the big counties.
In Pennsylvania.
Not coming in.
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. So he's been calling around, and according to Senator Bob Casey, speaking to Mike Memoli, according to Mike's note, that Biden was calling Casey and checking in. Why are these counties, like some of the Philadelphia suburbs, not reporting? Why is this so slow? So it is that early vote factor, but also, you know, he himself is getting nervous. That's why Joe Biden came out, because he anticipated exactly what the president did, which was a tweet saying that the vote is being stolen, starting to change the narrative. And Biden, with the optimism and telling people to be patient, was trying to at least capture that mood. But privately, he is calling people, elected officials and former officials in key counties.
Texas, too early to call. Trump leads, however. Whoop, I'm just sorry. In my ear, as those words came out of my mouth, Trump now is the projected winner in Texas. Again, Trump now the projected winner in the state of Texas.
All right, in Minnesota, it is too early to call, but we can say that Joe Biden is leading in that state. In Arizona, it is too early to call, but again, it appears that Joe Biden has taken a lead there.
Georgia is the curious one that we're watching right now, as Chuck keeps pointing out, waiting for those numbers, those votes to come out of the Atlanta area. But right now, we characterize it as too early. North Carolina is too close to call.
Let's go to Pennsylvania. It is too early to call. We await mail-in ballots there, which can arrive up to 3 days after Election Day if they are postmarked Election Day. Here's the presidential race in Montana. It's too early to call, waiting for votes there, but the president has a lead.
Maine is too early. Michigan, also too early. That's part of what Democrats hope will be that blue wall.
Michigan, yeah, we talked about that. Wisconsin's the other one, too early to call. We're awaiting votes in Milwaukee County, which is a big one for Joe Biden if he hopes to pull that one out. And in Nevada, too early to call.
And Alaska is too early to call. So where does this lead us? Let's show you the electoral map at this hour. The road to 270, and it's got Donald Trump now out front with 209 electoral votes to 205 for Biden.
Montana's presidential race, and we're calling it for President Trump. No surprise there. Rhode Island, Chuck scooped us, Lester.
Well, it showed up on, I was about to look for
Old
the little
news
button.
now.
Yes, exactly. And in Maine, it's too early to call, but Biden is leading, although there is that one electoral vote in Maine that possibly the president could pick up. And in that scenario of an electoral tie, that could become extremely relevant. So there's your map at this hour, 1:15 on the East Coast.
We have called this now. It's not registering here, but we have called. Our decision desk says Joe Biden's going to win this electoral vote, which we know Nebraska splits up. So that's one. It's an important one. And again, look, Rich Lowry was the first to point this out. This does add, especially if Arizona and Nevada end up both blue, this means the president needs 2 of his 3 from the blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He can't just do this with Michigan. If indeed Arizona is headed in blue, Nevada's blue, and Minnesota stays the way it is. So that's what that Nebraska electoral vote does. It sort of adds one more hurdle to the president.
Got a call in Minnesota. NBC News projects that Joe Biden will win the state of Minnesota 10 electoral votes. And Senator, I'll let you react to that if you'd like.
That's great.
There's a reaction.
Another win.
All right, good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, be well.
Thank you, Senator. Well, that was interesting because remember we had heard from Jason Miller, the Trump campaign chair or advisor earlier that he felt that Minnesota could be in play for President Trump. NBC now.
Look, he gave us numbers that look like they're closer to right in North Carolina, but his Minnesota projection was pretty off. It's lopsided on the popular vote, but it's dead even in this electoral college. We have this sort of rural urban split that is real. It looks like suburban America may be moving, sort of 60% with the blue team, but the 40% may be hanging with the red team. And that means we are living in a very polarized world right now.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please sit. Thank you. This is without question the latest news conference I've ever had. Thank you. I appreciate it very much, and I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. And we were getting ready for a big celebration. We were winning everything, and all of a sudden it was just called off. The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good, such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement. We won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot. And we won the great state of Ohio. We won Texas. We won Texas. We won Texas by 700,000 votes, and they don't even include it in the tabulations. It's also clear that we have won Georgia. We're up by 2.5% or 117,000 votes with only 7% left. They're never going to catch us. They can't catch us. Likewise, we've clearly won North Carolina, where we're up 1.4% or 77,000 votes with only approximately 5% left. They can't catch us.
We also, if you look and you see Arizona, we have a lot of life in that. And somebody declared that it was a victory for, and maybe it will be. I mean, that's possible. But certainly there were a lot of votes out there that we could get, because we're now just coming into what they call Trump territory. I don't know what you call it, but these were friendly Trump voters. And that could be overturned. The gentleman that called it, I watched tonight, he said, well, we think it's fairly unlikely that he could catch. Well, fairly unlikely. And we don't even need it. We don't need that. That was just a state that if we would have gotten it, it would have been nice, Arizona. But there's a possibility, maybe even a good possibility. In fact, since I saw that originally, it's been changed and the numbers have substantially come down just in a small amount of votes. So we want that obviously to stay in play. But most importantly, we're winning Pennsylvania by a tremendous amount of votes. These aren't even close. It's not like, oh, it's close. With 64% of the vote in, it's going to be almost impossible to catch. And we're coming into good Pennsylvania areas where they happen to like your president. I mean, it's like very good. So we'll probably expand that. We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin. So we're winning. We don't need all of them. We need, because when you add Texas in, which wasn't added.
We're listening to the president speaking at the White House, but we got to dip in here because there have been several statements that are just frankly not true. The president going through some of the states, stating that he has prevailed in those states, naming Georgia, saying they're winning Georgia, or that they won Georgia, there's no way they'll catch us, that they're winning Pennsylvania, won Michigan. The fact of the matter is those states have not come close to counting all of their vote. There's still outstanding vote.
At this hour, at 4:36 Eastern Time, out in Hawaii, NBC News can project Joe Biden is the winner of Hawaii's 4 electoral votes. Not a big surprise, but that's a projection we can make at this hour.
Chuck, set the stage. Where are we right now?
Sure. Let's go through. Look, the next few hours, we expect a little bit of action, and where I want to look, the big one is, I believe we just called a state that we've been waiting on calling, and that is the state of Maine. And that would be 3 of the 4, I believe, because right now we know that the president is winning that 2nd congressional district here. So that's 3 additional electoral votes with Maine. We had not called Maine. We were waiting for a little bit more to come in, but that puts us 3 more there, and they're all crucial here right now for Joe Biden.
Let's put it up here. I think NBC News is now projecting Joe Biden is the apparent winner in the state of Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. That was an important prize in the Democrats' blue wall. So again, NBC News projecting that Joe Biden, the apparent winner of Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. Peter Alexander, let's send it over to you.
Yeah, so Lester, obviously that's a big win for Joe Biden. This is part of that blue wall, as you noted, that President Trump won 4 years ago by just a limited number of votes. This time around, obviously, it's now favoring Joe Biden, the first of that wall to crumble for Donald Trump.
Let me just interrupt you just for a moment, Pete. Stay with us. Michigan, on your screen right now. This is a very big call that we are now ready to make. NBC News Decision Desk projecting the winner of Michigan, Biden, Vice President Biden, with 49.8% of the vote to 48.6% for President Trump. Again, that is a key call that we've been waiting hours and hours for since last night. Kristen Welker's been talking about the blue wall. We've all been talking about it. We've been talking about Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Hallie Jackson at the White House. We now have Wisconsin blue on our map. We have Michigan blue on our map. That makes it significantly harder for the president.
Let me take you to Georgia. This is another one that's been trickling in. You see the margins down to 13.5 below 14,000. And look, we've been telling you, they've all been coming in, looks like, from these blue counties because Biden's been winning at about a 70% clip. If he continues that with what we think is left, it's somewhere in the 45 to 55,000 range of ballots.
Which is obviously enough.
This is going to be a tie, and you'd rather be Biden, because in here they believe provisionals are going to help Biden.
We heard from the president this evening. With more on that, here's Peter Alexander. Peter?
Yeah, Lester, the president's still speaking at the White House right now, but he opened up his remarks the first time we've heard from him from the wee hours of the night of Election Day with a series of false claims, among other things, saying that this election is being stolen from him, saying that if all the legal votes were counted, that he would win easily. To be clear, to this point, there is no proof, certainly no proof that's been provided by the campaign of any fraud taking place in spite of the president's allegations to this moment. And there's been a lot of contradictions in what we've heard from the president as well. Among other things, he's been criticizing the tally that's taking place in Pennsylvania as we speak right now, where the president's lead appears to be, certainly is shrinking. So while he's criticizing that lead going away in Pennsylvania, he's also touting the fact that he is closing in on Joe Biden in Arizona, suggesting that in one place the vote is legitimate, but in the other place it is not. The president's message has been inconsistent from the start. His own allies are saying they've seen no voter fraud, but the president again today tweeted in all caps, "Stop the fraud." Earlier in the day, he had tweeted, "Stop the count," but his own allies and aides communicated to him that if you stop the count, Joe Biden would be the next president. So President Trump, again, in his first public remarks, now almost 48 hours after Election Day, with a series of false claims, not formally declaring victory as he appeared to do 2 nights ago, but again suggesting that he's being cheated out of this election.
Yeah, we do have an update on the vote in Pennsylvania. We want to take a look at that. But our understanding is that Joe Biden, yes, has now taken the lead in Pennsylvania as the votes continue to come in. He is now up by 5,587 votes. We assume that we had votes coming in from the Philadelphia area where Joe Biden has been gaining by huge margins. He's been winning the mail-in votes coming out of those areas with 80-90% of the vote. So this was sort of what knew was inevitable, that Joe Biden was continuing to close the gap. The question was, at what point would he finally reach Donald Trump's total and even take the lead? And then the question now will be, how much further is this going to go? How big of a lead could Joe Biden build? Because it's very clear the momentum across the state is that he's gaining votes as all of these mail-in votes and these absentee ballots are counted.
I think that's a really, really important thing to point out there, that this is what we expected. While it is a big vote shift, it is not something that was necessarily a surprise. Of course, we did not know how exactly the numbers were going to shake out. But President Trump was encouraging his supporters, people who were going to vote for him, to actually show up on the polls at Election Day. We had that big lead for President Trump because they did, in fact, seem to listen to that. As these mail-in votes come in, we are seeing them go towards Joe Biden's favor, which again is exactly what we are expecting. We're saying we have 95% of that vote in. It is still too close to call. We have been getting these in batches. As Joe just mentioned, we were waiting on these a lot from the Philadelphia area, some also over from on the other side of the state, the Pittsburgh area, both two Democratic areas that we were still waiting for the most amount of those mail-in votes to be counted and come in.
I don't know exactly how many points are left to how many votes are left to count in Pennsylvania. I know as of this morning it was around 160,000. Clearly, we've taken some of that number off. But what's interesting to note is that, well, you might look at this map and say, okay, well, if votes coming in, absentee ballots from red areas, it's going to help President Trump, and blue areas, Biden. That has not been the case. The case has really been, even in red areas, when the mail-in votes are counted, Joe Biden is still doing well, maybe not by the same margins that he's doing in a Philadelphia or a Pittsburgh, but pretty much all the mail-in votes that are coming in continue to help Joe Biden. At first, it was help him catch up. Now it appears it's going to help him with his lead.
Today, Lester Holt and Savannah Guthrie in New York. The moment the entire country has been waiting for after a very close race. NBC News now projects that Joe Biden has won the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, and its 20 electoral votes.
And that means we can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. He is President-elect Joseph Robinette Biden at 77 years old. Chuck, we'll turn to you. This map is a real interesting one, not necessarily the path that anyone thought would have unfolded, but here we are.
Here we are. Look, we got just enough vote in order to call Pennsylvania, even if it may slip into a recount. We think there's just mathematically nearly impossible for the order of finish to change in Pennsylvania. And when you look at it in many ways, Joe Biden won with a somewhat traditional map in the Midwest. He rebuilt the blue wall, and narrowly, but he did it. He added 2 sort of expansion states, it looks like, potentially, when all's said and done, with Arizona and Georgia. But the fact is, he did it without it. And it proved that 4 years ago, the biggest important lesson from this election is that 2016 was not an outlier. This is essentially the 2016 election with the Gary Johnson vote going to Joe Biden. And here we are.
All right, Andrea.
Well, I'm thinking of the 32-year quest for the presidency of this man, his resilience in the face of failed attempts in the past, a very slow start, stumbling out of the gate, losing the primaries and caucuses, reclaiming it on Super Tuesday, and taking a centrist message which will now challenge him. His ability to reach across the aisle will be challenged on the left within the Democratic Party. But the empathy, the fact that he was so policy directed, which comes from his whole career during COVID, which I think was the biggest story of this closing part of the campaign, his response to the pandemic and to the racial inequality, the protests after George Floyd, really spelled that appeal to suburban women and others in broadening that appeal that Hillary Clinton simply could not reach in the 2016 map. And that spelled victory in a sharp contrast with appealing for unity, for calm, as he has in the last 48 hours.
And Casey Hunt is here. Concession is normally the opening to transition. Are we going to see that?
I think we're all going to be watching to see what Republicans do here, and they have a real challenge in trying to manage a president who has been ruled, it seems, by his emotions and who has fed into the chaos. So I would expect some Republicans to focus on letting what Chuck mentioned, there's still going to be a process that plays out in the states. Obviously, Republicans have talked about legal challenges. I'm going to watch to see how long and how far Republicans are going to be willing to entertain that. Clearly, current President Trump has a lot of support. There were a lot of Americans who voted for him here, but I'm not sure that there's going to be sustained support for that. And, you know, just to pick up on what Andrea was saying, I've been watching all of this, and you think about what got Joe Biden into this race and how, you know, everyone in Washington has looked at this president. He has said repeatedly that the events in Charlottesville and the president's unwillingness to be very clear on matters of race are what got him into this in the beginning, that he was something of a reluctant candidate, that his son Beau should have been the one who was running here. I mean, he has been trying, as Andrea said, to find his way into this office for decades. And that the relationships that he did build through the roles that he had in the Senate, I think, are going to drive us going forward.
You know, there's a mandate. There is a mandate here. And there's going to be a fight about what it is. But I'll tell you what the American people's mandate is. Heal the nation. That's Joe Biden's mandate. That's the message that was sent. Heal the nation. It's why he ran. And you know what? That is why he won.
I think we have a Joe Biden statement. Kristen Welker in Wilmington. What do you got?
Savannah, we're hearing from the now president-elect Joe Biden. Let me read you his statement. This is just coming in. I am honored and humbled by the trust the American people have placed in me and in Vice President-elect Harris. In the face of unprecedented obstacles, a record number of Americans voted, proving once again that democracy beats deep in the heart of America. With the campaign over, it's time to put the anger and the harsh rhetoric behind us and come together as a nation. It's time for America to unite and to heal. We are the United States of America, and there's nothing we can't do if we do it together.